I looked and I started watching some of his highlights. It's like, damn, yeah, he was a bad boy, man. Like,
damn,
who was out there with a Ngannou piece in him. Like, he was out there really like, yeah, just
all right. It is pay-per-view fight week going down this Saturday. UFC 309 going down this Saturday in New York at Madison Square Garden. Jon Jones defending his heavyweight title versus Stipe Miocic. And you know, for the big cards, we always have my guy, my other host for this breakdown, the guy behind the camera. What is up, my guy?
Man, I'm the guy sitting in the comfortable chair, man. That's what I am.
I got a new setup in the office.
Got the new sit looking out for me, nice and comfortable over here, man. What's up, man? I'm Drew Era, and I'm just here to let all the youngsters know. Whether you like it or not, Jon Jones is the GOAT.
We have a lot of reminding to do, man.
Whether you like it or not, youngsters,
he's
and I don't like him. He's the best, man. And look.
I can't go on Twitter this week because everyone is just talking so much disrespect, and it shows these new fans that just started watching maybe about 5-6 years ago.
Brother,
maybe
I got into it today, like not got into it, but I was going with a dude, and then I went on his profile, and you know what he did? He had a clickbait thing, and it was that Aspinall would be the second best win on Jon Jones's resume. And the best win on his resume is DC. And immediately everyone was like, and my question was, did you watch him at 205?
No.
At prime 205? Did you watch his come up? Aspinall is like maybe a top 7 name on his resume. And like, then I looked at this kid's profile and I said, kid, because he was 19. And I was like, duh, you weren't even alive during, like, what are you talking about? Why am I arguing with this kid?
You was outside worrying about when the streetlights were coming on to get home.
Like, bro.
When Jon Jones was building up his resume, a legendary resume.
Legendary.
And
that we're getting, like you said, we're going to get into.
We're going to do a lot of defending because you guys are talking reckless over here. I can't believe what I'm seeing on online and social media about Jon Jones is, Anyways, before we get into the UFC 309, though, I just want to give a quick recap for the picks for last week. UFC Vegas 100, surprisingly a great card. Everyone name value was down low. It wasn't that popping, but my gosh, we had about maybe 2 decisions on that card, finishes left and right, and our guy, the cigarette smoker, Carlos Prates. What a guy, man.
With what a crazy glance.
This guy, man.
Like, this guy. You know what that fight showed me too? And before we get, all right, Prates, right? You know who I want to see him fight? We were texting back and forth on it. I want him, especially because Neil Magny isn't like, the greatest wrestler on earth or whatever, and he's pretty washed at this point, finally. Because that fool's like the Terminator, man. But like, Colby Covington is trying really hard to talk himself back into the title picture, trying to fight Shavkat based on nothing, off of just talking. Nothing. Like, he must have thought because Trump won again that he's like back in. Yeah. Bro, you still suck. Like, you're not.
You haven't won a fight.
Not be holding the ranking that you hold right now. And now he's trying to talk himself into that Shavkat fight because he sees like, damn, maybe I could get this dude like wrestling around. Maybe I would rather see Prates knock his head off and put the hype train to an end and be able to just take a nice big jump because he jumped in at 13. I saw in the rankings. Yeah. He's in the top 15 now. He's 13. Man, look, we talked about 170 is going to be fun, man. 170 is a fun division.
And it quickly kind of just turned over. I mean, it was one of those.
Usman's punk ass was holding it up for so long.
I mean, fighting people 2 times who were the same 3 people.
But I guess that's kind of the thing, though, is like we had to go through all that while these young dudes were all working their way up and getting discovered and signed. So, I mean, I guess the Usman reign was worth it. As much as I don't like Marty Fake Newsman and think it's wild that he's even being considered to fight.
And now, a new main event might be here, and we might get another Usman main event. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into UFC Vegas 100. I just wanted to point out our guy Carlos Prates just going off, having another career highlight finish. a punch to the temple of Neil Magny. Nasty stuff. The walkout, the aura just built from that walkout song. The Rick Ross, goodness gracious. I was like, oh yeah, he's here. But yeah, a great card though. But let's get into this breakdown for UFC 309. And if you guys know, we will start from the prelims and work our way up to the main event. First fight. Let me fix my screen real quick. Let's pull up ESPN real quick. So first fight we have Veronica Hardy versus Eduarda Moura. Just to put this out here, Veronica and Dan Hardy are probably one of my favorite MMA couples. I mean, what a power couple. The mind of Dan Hardy, he's putting everything into his wife now. I mean, in other ways, Veronica Hardy kind of resurging her career too, because she was in the dumps before they started talking and got married. She's turning her career around and is kind of putting together a nice career and a win streak. But to get into these girls individually,
she's 3-0 since they got married, man.
Yeah, man.
Just look that up. She's 3-0 since they got married, and she had lost 4
was,
out of 5 before they got married.
They're
married now. She's won 3 in a row.
But Veronica Hardy, she can strike fast punches down the middle. She will have the speed advantage in this fight, and having the mind of Dan Hardy in your corner is always going to be a great thing. I mean, he's one of the sharpest minds in the game. I love watching Dan Hardy break down a fight. He can make the worst fights on a card seem interesting. I mean, this guy is just ridiculous with the breakdowns. But with Veronica Hardy, she packs a punch, and she has very, very strong legs. She's strong in the clinch. Hardy will dart in and use her speed to throw a 1-2 and likes to end her striking combos with a kick. But Moura, on the other hand, Moura is a jiu-jitsu, grappling, is really, really great. She does her best work on the ground. She really does chase to find finishes, which is really nice as well, especially in women's MMA. She's very, very aggressive on the feet, and she does that just to close distance and get her hands, on you and get you down to the ground. But we saw in her last fight with Diniz Gomes, though, she was spamming takedowns like crazy. They counted 26 takedown attempts and was credited for 5 of them. And I think that has to do with her terrible weight cut for that fight. She isn't a natural strawweight. That's why she is moving up a weight class in this fight. This is her first fight at flyweight. So, but before that, Diniz Gomes fight, she ran through both of her opponents. And I think the UFC just tried to give her too big of a push in giving her Gomes, and she ran into that test and kind of failed miserably. The thing we must remember about this fight is this is Moura's new weight class. Those 10 pounds will mean a lot for Moura to have. Instead of 115, it's going to be 125. And I think that's going to pay off pretty big here. She's going to have the size advantage versus Hardy here. Hardy does move a lot. She has a lot of lateral movements, so it may take a little bit for Moura to kind of grab a hold of Hardy here. But I think eventually Moura will get Hardy against the cage, and I think she's going to try to work hard for those takedowns, obviously. And it could be a grimy fight, but I think this fight, the later it goes, we've seen Hardy kind of fade later in fights. And I think someone who is going to bring that grappling out of Veronica Hardy, she has shown that she does have some good takedown defense against the cage and everything like that. But I don't think Veronica Hardy has seen this level of a jiu-jitsu fighter in Moura in a while. So I love Veronica Hardy. I've been picking Veronica Hardy in her last 5 fights, and she's 4-1 in her last 5. And my pick should tell you just how high I am on Moura and her grappling ability. And Hardy has only been submitted once in her pro career, and that was back in 2019. But I think Moura makes it a second time on Saturday. Give me the underdog here. Give me Eduardo. Oh my gosh, the disrespect. I'm sorry. Give me the underdog here. Give me Moura by submission, dog. Ugh, it hurts me to pick that way. It really does. But I think there's a lot of good value on Moura being the underdog here on Saturday. Next fight we have Bassil Hafez versus Oban Elliott. Now I'm kind of punching myself because Oban's last fight against Preston Parsons, I picked him initially on the breakdown, and then I switched my pick to Parsons, and I regret switching that pick. But I think I saw the potential in Oban Elliott and his wrestling. He has strong wrestling, good timing on the takedowns, a good jab. With Hafez, though, he kind of came in short notice against JDM, and he almost finished JDM in that fight, actually.
Split decision.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
This man came out of nowhere, and on a few days' notice, he almost pulled up a huge upset. Hafez has good wrestling as well, a very durable chin, and you could take that how you want it. He was kind of getting rocked, or I don't know if I should say rocked, but he was getting stunned a little bit and getting touched up by McGhee Gall. Take that how you will. I don't know, but he's durable though, and he throws power in every shot that he throws. He has a good check hook as well. Both gentlemen are good wrestlers. It's important for Oban to kind of weather the striking storm of Hafez early in this fight. But if Elliott wants to wrestle, Hafez has good wrestling as well. And, you know, Hafez wrestling out of Philly with Sean Brady and all that, I think. It's a good gym. So it's going to be hard for Oban to control Hafez on the ground. You know, technically, I think Oban Elliott is just better kind of everywhere. But we've seen Oban Elliott get rocked by Val Woodburn. And I don't know how his chin's holding up nowadays with Oban Elliott, but if Bassil Hafez lands those same shots, I think Oban's going to sleep. Again, I think the wrestling will kind of neutralize itself out here because both guys are so good offensively and defensively in the wrestling. And I think it kind of comes down to striking. Oban does have a good jab, but I don't know if a jab is good enough to kind of stop this Bassil Hafez guy who is just kind of just relentless. Again, give me the underdog here. Give me Bassil Hafez by decision here. Next fight we have, hey, Mickey, you're so fine. Pause.
Oh, man.
Mickey Gall versus
Punk killer. He's always. That's what he's always.
What a time! What a time, man. We have Mickey Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. So Brahimaj is strictly just a jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, I'm not saying he's terrible on the feet, but he definitely wants this fight on the ground because he has all of his finishes by submission, I think. Now Mickey Gall, very, very interesting career. Like we just said, the CM Punk killer. He was given CM Punk for CM Punk's debut. I think it was his debut as well, maybe. I kind of forget. But I know it was very, very maybe one of his first fights.
It was his second fight.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much I remember that fight because I was like, CM Punk is here in the UFC. Like I've seen this guy in ECW.
Like another pro wrestler.
Wow.
Up.
But Mickey Gall has kind of had an interesting career from the CM Punk days and Diego Sanchez.
Do you know what he got as a follow-up fight for CM Punk?
He got a push, huh?
Got Super Sage Northcutt. And he beat him.
Oh, yeah. I remember
the choke. He choked him out.
I remember being a fan of Sage because
you were a Super Sage fan.
I wanted Sage to work out so bad, but holy crap,
he looked like a Power Ranger, man. And then did they release? I'll look it up whether they released him or like they traded him.
I think they
one of the overseas,
yeah.
and then he ended up overseas.
And Sage ain't even doing that good over there overseas at one. So
he's probably still only like 25 years old too.
Yeah, probably, man.
Young still.
Yeah, I wanted Sage Northcutt to work out so bad, but
Sage,
oh my goodness.
That was a mishandling of a fighter if there ever was one.
For sure. And it looks like he's getting disrespected over there by 1-2, and I don't think he's going so well.
He won his last fight. I mean, he's 1-1 over there. He got knocked. He went viral for getting knocked out his first fight and won. I remember that.
Me too.
And that was 5 years ago now. And then he didn't fight for 4 years. And then he fought in 2023. And yeah.
But I'm the guy who fought GM3 this past weekend in UFC Vegas 100. In his post-fight interview, he was kind of airing out one as a company.
Yeah, I saw that. That was wild.
I was like,
if we don't go,
if we can get some talent from there to come over here, I know Dana.
Dude, give me some 25ers from over
I know
man.
Dana's kind of like, oh yeah,
let me see what's popular. Up those little divisions, man. Let's
go. But yeah, Mickey Gall, I feel like he was getting pushed really hard by the UFC, kind of booking him for fights, and then I think everything just kind of plateaued and just didn't go anywhere. I feel like the submission game is there, but I feel like he's falling in love with the striking and the hands. So I feel like that kind of will be his downfall, but it's not bad. I mean, he traded strikes with Bassil Hafez that we were just talking about before this, and kind of he landed some good shots on Hafez. So I'm not ready to give up on Mickey Gall just yet. And I think his long limbs could help him on the ground and jiu-jitsu game and the grappling on the ground, kind of, locking up a body triangle and, helping him with leverage with the long limbs. I think it kind of fall in his favor with this. I'm not too big on Brahimaj though. Kind of like watching his fights again for this breakdown. I wasn't impressed. So I'm going to take a shot here on Mickey Gall here by a finish. I think TKO or submission. You can look that up on your sports book or wherever you bet, but I think Mickey Gall is live for a finish here against Brahimaj. But yeah.
Even still, I mean, Mickey Gall is still just like a -125 favorite, so he's still just to win the fight, period. Like, you're getting good odds right there. And then, I mean, your first two dogs anyways, like, were +210 and +125. So, like, again, piecing together certain little parlays, man. Like, a Mickey Gall getting thrown in there at -125 is, like, great value.
And I will say, like, my first two picks are underdogs. I feel kind of confident. Like, I'm not trying to throw a Hail Mary here. Like, I feel confident in these matchups that these underdogs are getting. So, next fight, we have Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. So Diniz was supposed to fight Derek Lewis a few weeks ago. I think it was for the Canada card. And then
when Lewis
got sick and he pulled out.
Yeah.
So now he's getting rebooked for this against a better, I think, kind of a better all-around fighter with Marcin Tybura. It's crazy to say this, but I think this is a big step up from Derek Lewis. I know people hung up on the power of Derek Lewis. I get it; it's a huge attribute. But when you speak about the overall MMA game, Marcin is definitely a better fighter. So this is kind of a big step up. Diniz is a very talented kickboxer, though. Solid power, good defense, and so far in his UFC career, no one has really tested that takedown defense of his. Carl Williams tried to do that, but I can't believe I betted on Carl Williams to fight Diniz. He was not good, man. But Tybura, though, he is a grinder. His striking isn't anything special, but he strikes in bunches and tries to close the distance. He can get fights to the ground, and he does his best work there on the ground. I know Tybura is old, and coming to this fight off a first round submission loss isn't probably doesn't make you feel good, but he has done well versus strikers in the past in his career. And this is a big jump for Diniz in just a skill set talking matchup here. But Diniz was scheduled to fight Derek Lewis, like I just said a few weeks ago, and now he's getting rebooked for 309. Now he's training for an opposite fighter now, and I think a quick turnaround, I don't know. I know he's ready to go, but I don't know if he's ready to go for a overall skill set fighter like Marcin Tybura. I'm going to go the OG here, man. Give me Marcin Tybura, and I think he kind of just puts it all together for Diniz, and I think I don't know, I want to say overwhelm him, but I think Diniz kind of gets a little bit of a wake-up call a little bit, and I think Marcin Tybura kind of makes it interesting. So, but there is, again, some of these lines are kind of close. There are no odds out for this fight right now, but I'm interested to see who the underdog will be in this fight. Because if it's Marcin,
it's Marcin.
Tybura's underdog.
See, okay, so Caesar Sports. Tybura, you can get anywhere from -128. He's up to like -150 in some spots. So yeah, he's a slight favorite. But again, another one of these like 130 to 150 type of favorites. Like those are the favorites you want to have on a parlay.
Yeah,
because those are going to pay you off a lot better than the John Jones -700. Spoiler alert.
In the next fight, we have David Onamo. Now it says TBA, so I don't know if he has a fight yet, but you see, he's been sitting here with no opponent for a good minute now. But next fight, we have one of my favorite fights on this card. Actually, we have Jim Miller, the OG, my guy Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Now, Damon Jackson, this is his first fight at lightweight. He is moving up to 155. The weight cut at 145 was not going well, and I think it was really diminishing his performances at 145. Damon Jackson, kind of wonky striking, but I think he does do well on the ground and the grappling exchanges on the ground as well. But he's not a bad striker. Again, it looks wonky, but there's some skill there. Now, Jim Miller, I don't know if I need to say much about Jim Miller. I mean, this guy's been around for years and years, decades. The only fighter probably to only fight at UFC 100, 200, and 300.
Yes.
What a accomplishment. Now, I get people are kind of not certain about Jim Miller, especially coming off that ass beating he just got at UFC 300. Ooh. Bobby King just, oof. My guys. So I get it. And Jim Miller is 41 years old. And I feel like, his last fight took some years off his career a little bit. It worries me that Miller may come into this fight, maybe not himself, maybe gun shy to kind of get into a brawl, because Damon Jackson is going to bring that fight to you. And if you're not ready to fight back, he will put a pace on you, and he probably will get you out of here. And then with 10 more pounds on him, he's going to look good, man. I think we're going to see a really rejuvenated Damon Jackson in here. But this is where I fall with Damon Jackson. I think Damon Jackson was running into people that were just more physically just better, or imposing their will and their muscle, and their just aggressive with the grappling. And Damon Jackson was just kind of struggling with people being stronger than him. And I think that kind of led to the gas tank and him falling off, and him tiring out. But does Jim Miller go back to his wrestling roots? And if he does, I think he can physically take over this fight. And I think he's physically and probably smarter. His IQ is better than Damon Jackson. I think if Jim Miller can just put on his wrestling shoes for this and not get so much into a brawl, because Jim Miller has been falling in love with his hands, I think Jim Miller can win this fight. Now, it's a gamble for me to think that Jim Miller is just going to go back to his wrestling days and shoot for takedowns and use his wrestling, and probably be in maybe a boring fight here. So this one is a toss up for me, and I've been going back and forth on this fight because I don't know, man. I still have a bad taste of 145, Damon Jackson, and him dying out in these fights. Not surviving 10 minutes and still just looking gassed. So,
and usually adding 10 pounds to that, well, you said it will help with the power and the striking, but
I don't
necessarily always translate to the gas tank.
exactly,
especially if your gas tank was already trashed to begin with.
And that's what I kind of go back to on this. And I think Jim Miller can handle anything that Damon Jackson throws at him on the feet. And I think,
well, this, like you said, fight IQ, and the fact that Jim Miller, what hasn't Jim Miller seen? Like, this is Jim Miller. This is he. You said 100, 200, 300. He's been in the UFC. He made his debut in 2008.
Yeah,
16 years ago. There's kids that are getting their driver's license this year. Jim Miller was making his debut at UFC, I think, 89. Like, there's nothing Jim Miller hasn't seen as far as any facet of MMA, I'm sure.
Guys, I'm doing it. I'm going with the OG here. I'm going with the 41-year-old.
Hey, man, props to the 41-year-olds out here in these
I'm
streets.
going Jim Miller, the underdog, by decision here. I think he goes back to fighting smarter, not getting into a firefight. I think Damon Jackson, with the 10 pounds added to his, his body, I think he will hold up a little bit better. But again, IQ, and I think Jim Miller is just going to just be more physically better in this fight.
Plus 145, dog.
Plus 145. Wow. Okay, this next fight just kind of has had me scratching my head a little bit. Chris Weidman,
oh man,
versus Eryk Anders, and I see a plus sign underdog by Chris Weidman. I get it. He hasn't looked the same since he broke his leg and he came back. He's winning off these eye pokes. Bruno Silva crying for the stoppage was bad because he got eye poked and then got knocked out. I get it. Chris Weidman, even though wrestling isn't looking the same either. And then he's fighting someone like Eryk Anders. And I would just think that this is Chris Weidman's game, or this is Chris Weidman's fight right here. And then I kind of watch Eryk Anders' last like 2 fights. And I go and watch the Andre Barrio fight with Eryk Anders. And he looked great in the clinch. He looked strong. He was lasting for 15 minutes. Like, his cardio wasn't dropping off like it usually has. Eryk Anders has usually relied on his athleticism, and I feel like that's kind of it. I mean, yeah, he's bigger than you, but like he's not there yet. Like, I don't think he's put together that good. I've tried to back him in his earlier MMA UFC career because I saw the athleticism, but it's not working out for me. I don't know. How do you feel about this fight?
I don't understand it. I don't understand what either of them gained from it except for a paycheck.
I don't know.
I would imagine Weidman is going to be extra juiced because it's at MSG. They train out there. The Cerro Longo team out in Jersey, so he's going to have home field. But overall, no, I don't get. I've told you, I don't care for Eryk Anders at all. I don't get it.
It feels weird backing Anders in this fight. Like, it feels wrong because I've never haven't done it in years. Like, I don't know, man.
Again, like your last one, like he won earlier this year over Jamie Pickett. Like,
it was a probably one of the worst middleweights, and he got let go.
Like, what?
Like, I think Jamie Pickett's not even with the UFC anymore.
No, I don't understand. I'm glad, like we talked about, I'm glad that this thing got moved down.
Yes.
Off of because it was supposed to open the pay-per-view card. I'm glad we don't have to watch that on pay-per-view. We joke on here about like the fights where you can go to the gas station. I will be going to the gas station during this fight because I do not care about the former middleweight champion who ended another one of the GOAT's all-time GOAT runs off of a freak injury. Yeah. But I'll back Weidman just off of
because what I'm thinking is I think Weidman just, again, IQ wise,
I was just gonna say I think it's like Jim Miller. I think it's just he's been around, and like you said, Eryk Anders has been at this for how long, and you still don't know what he is. Still don't know what he is. Still hasn't put it together. He just goes off of athleticism and being a former linebacker. Like who's like you said, who's athletic and who can hit hard.
Oh, these bastards.
Yeah.
The over and under. Like I'm just saying it right here on the ESPN minus 225 to over 2.5. You bastards.
Yeah, so they're calling this. You know what that means? Boring decision is what they're calling this fight. I don't think they're too far off.
You know what? I'm not too scared to get this fight wrong if I do get it wrong with this pick. Give me Chris Weidman because I don't know what Anders we're going to get here. This is probably the biggest stage that Anders has been on, and I don't know how he shows up on the stage at MSG fighting
it's without a doubt it's the biggest stage he's been on.
I mean this guy
you know what I mean? Like it's with I'm going through the resume here and like it's without a doubt his biggest. I mean he's got his resume is very misleading. Like the names on his resume are very like he has Lyoto Machida. He's been in the cage with Lyoto Machida and Thiago Santos and Khalil Roundtree, and he lost all of them. Like whenever this step up comes for him, he never meets the occasion. And not that I think this is like a crazy step up. I think this is a pretty lateral move. But again, it's a fighter who has been to the next level, no matter where they're at now. Because I think that was kind of with Machida as well. With Roundtree, wasn't even there yet. But with Machida, it was kind of like, it's not the same. It's not the one that got face planted by John Jones. Like, I think this kind of will follow the script of all those other fights of Anders kind of taking a little bit of step up in class as far as his opposition. And yeah, to your point, this is without a doubt the biggest stage that he's been on.
If the knockout prop is like plus 400, 500 for Anders, I may like sprinkle something on there. The very, very little. But Chris Weidman has fought Bruno Silva and Brad Tavares in his 2 fights being back since breaking his leg. And he's kind of held up a bit better than I thought he would. He does look old, yes, of course, but I just don't know. I can't back Anders, man. I just feel weird. So give me Chris Weidman here. I don't feel comfortable. I mean, I don't feel like comfortable picking Chris Weidman, but again, I don't know who to pick in this fight. So,
I mean, basically, it's a pick that's happening because it's on the card. It's not like he's running out to tell y'all put your mortgage payment on this fight. Like this is one to just honestly away. At the end of it,
relax.
That it's a pick because it has to be made, but overall, man, leave that off your parlays, man.
Go mingle with your friends or just talk to people.
Make the gas station run. Go take your union break, whatever you got to do. But yeah, this one, leave your money far away from this.
And then the feature prelim, right before we get into the pay-per-view, we have Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. So Jonathan Martinez, good calf kicks, might be one of his best strikes, actually, is his kicks. And just lately, we saw Martinez take a loss to Jose Aldo. Aldo humbled this young kid. And in that fight, we saw Martinez not responding well to getting hit. I mean, and we kind of seen it in his past performances as well. I mean, just a good example of like his body language is kind of going down as that fight was going on with Aldo, and Aldo was kind of boxing him up. He didn't respond well, and I don't like that body language for Martinez. Now, Martinez, again, has also been knocked down before too, and I don't know what to say. I don't want to say Martinez is chinny for that, but like I think he definitely has in some shots, and he has definitely gotten rocked, and I don't know if his striking defense is that good. But something that kind of sways me a little bit in this pick is there is some gym drama with Martinez with Factory X. There was some gym drama, and he left his gym, Factory X, and he started his new gym by himself, very, very small, and he is the owner of that gym. I don't know if that's the right move for someone who's 30 years old to leave a gym that you were doing so well at. Yeah, you just took a loss, but I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But I hate when fighters do this. So that kind of is a huge red flag for me. Now with Marcus McGhee, good speed in his hands, and when Martinez wants to go, with the calf kicks, I think McGhee has a good counter shots with the punches coming up top. I think McGhee can make things interesting in this fight. And I'm not too high on McGhee personally, but I think he is a good matchup stylistically in this fight for Martinez. There is value on the underdog number here on Martinez, but because of the jump in competition, I don't know, man. Like again, like the huge camp is a huge red flag for me with Jonathan Martinez leaving Factory X. I think McGhee has good enough skill to let's just say this. I want to see how McGhee responds to the calf kicks early in this fight. If he could eat them and still hopefully check them and counter them, I think McGhee wins this fight by decision. But it really depends on those first few calf kicks, how McGhee responds in this. I think this is a good live betting situation here. Kind of depending on how the first round goes. But for a video, give me Marcus McGhee by decision here. Again, I don't like this fighter. I'm not a huge Marcus McGhee fan, but I don't know, man. I think Jonathan Martinez is going to find out this is a huge mistake that he left his gym.
The common theme with just looking at it here, like across the board, all the way through the prelims, all the way till we get to the main card. It's pretty much, except for the Oban fight, there's a lot of damn near even money across the board as far as these odds go. A lot of minus 120 to 140 favorites and a lot of like plus 120 to 150 dogs, all in the same kind of neighborhood. So like, I kind of seems like what they're telling you from a betting standpoint is like, yeah, the prelims, that's where the real ones are going to know where the money's kind of at. Because when you look at the main card, like we're about to get into,
yeah,
it's just your smallest favorite is minus 250. So main card, they're kind of telling you like, yeah, we're thinking the main card is very lopsided. I don't know. That's like you said. I think I'm staying away from a lot of that prelim card, except for maybe those first opening two. But other than that, yeah, man.
And we haven't seen odd lines like this in the UFC sport. Like we haven't seen lines like this in a while. Yeah. I think they're finally being generous with the pay-per-view card because usually these lines are not like this. I promise you. I think the bookies are kind of being smart now. They know that what the MMA fans are looking for now, and they're just juicing up these prices and these lines. So I think we're fortunate to have these, but good luck trying to bet on any of these because these are close fights.
Yeah.
Man, let's get into the opening pay-per-view for UFC 309. We have another Fight Nerds fighter here. Probably the one that no one really knows about, but this kid, man. This kid the striking is just beautiful. Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. Now with Llontop here, we just saw him a few months ago against Borishev, and Llontop is known for his durability. The skill is okay, but I don't want to be mean, but like it's like the UFC speed is too fast for him. The UFC is too big and kind of moves too fast for him. I think him going to the regional scene and just developing there will help him. But we saw in that Borishev fight. I know Borishev is good at striking, but man, Borishev just made him look like this kid belonged in the G League of MMA fighting. but he's durable and he has a chin and he's willing to scrap with you. But Mauricio Ruffy, on the other hand, there is no way anyone is fading the Fight Nerds in 2024. This is the best gym this year. If they don't win Gym of the Year, they have to win, man. Like I can't see this is giving me like city kickboxing vibes like a few years ago. There isn't a champ in this camp yet, but there will be, I feel like. I'm getting those vibes. But more, Ruffy is getting compared, in his body language and his striking, he's getting compared to Conor McGregor, like prime McGregor, and I see it kind of the wide stance and everything. I don't think. Listen, guys, Llontop is tough, and I think Ruffy puts on a display for 15 minutes. I don't think Llontop goes out.
It's a showcase.
It definitely,
right?
It's going to be a showcase.
You're leading off the pay-per-view with arguably, at the end of it all, the best fighter from the camp, from the hottest camp in MMA right now. Like, leading off the pay-per-view, maybe the biggest pay-per-view of the year, considering who's main eventing it. This is a showcase. This showcase 100%. This is just like they just gave it to his teammate last Saturday. They gave him that main event because they knew, all right, it's showtime. We need to start showcasing these fighters. They're building a lot of steam too. Like 2025 will be a huge year for the camp, and this is like going to be.
And with Brahimaj kind of calling out Izzy in Australia, I mean that's a huge fight for this camp. But
that's probably your closest. Is that your closest to a belt?
Yeah,
out of that camp, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like he's somewhere. He's top.
He's got to be
like 7.
Yeah,
in middle
with beating Cannonier, he should have worked his way like top 7 of the
number 5. Yeah, this week came out number 5. So, I mean, yeah, that's 2025. They're closing out 2024 strong. 2025 will be a huge year for them. But this absolutely, like this, we know what this is, man. If you just said, my man, and that the speed of the UFC is too fast for him, it looks like, and he should be down in the G League. Like if he makes it 15 minutes with him, good on you, man.
Good on you.
Earned your check, but you're there as a sacrificial lamb, 100%.
This could be one of those spots where if Ruffy gets a TKO, it's one of those premature stoppages, and depending on who the ref is, some refs kind of let violence go. Some refs stop it early. Depending on who the ref is, they could just stop it once James hits the ground. You never know. But I think this is just a 15-minute performance of Ruffy just showing off what he has, because James is that tough. I wonder what that line is for decision by Ruffy, though. With that
decision by Ruffy,
with that line, I wonder what Ruffy by decision is, because Llontop is tough. I want to see if. So Llontop has only been finished by sub twice, and he's only been finished twice in his career.
I mean, the Leech hadn't been finished at all. And then the Fight Nerd showed up and put his lights up.
The Peru chin of Llontop. Oh no. I'm gonna go into the next fight. Why did you look for that? Next fight up though, we have Viviane Araujo versus Karine Silva. Silva's been on a hot streak, man. Silva is bringing this some fresh blood into the women's flyweight division. I feel like flyweight is maybe kind of getting stagnant a little bit in the rankings and the fighters, but Karine Silva is finally bringing some fresh face and some blood into this women's flyweight division. Araujo is an OG in this division. She strong striker, but what worries me in this fight is her cardio. Her cardio has always been an issue. She does throw at like 80%. I feel like a lot of times, and she kind of just punches herself out. Breathing he kind of having a hard time in the third round to kind of stay in fights. And I think the pace of her opponents kind of, you know, it takes care of Araujo. So I think again, this is kind of like a spot for Karine Silva to kind of get that OG name under her resume in the win column for her resume, and I think Karine Silva kind of. I was thinking about maybe outstriking, maybe, but I think Karine Silva wants to get this fight to the ground, and I know Viviane is very hard to get to the ground, so it's going to be very, very interesting in that aspect of this fight. But I think Karine Silva is just too fast for Araujo, and yeah. So give me Silva again by decision here because I think Viviane is tough and kind of everywhere in this fight.
11 in a row for Silva.
Yeah, man.
That's wild.
Next fight, we have the Golden Boy prospect. We have Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig.
I see what you did there.
Paul Craig. That Scottish accent is thick as hell. This is kind of like the big jump that we kind of all been waiting for. I know a lot of people hate this matchup and this and that. I get it, but again, this is way better than what he was fighting last fight. So we're kind of seeing. I think we're going to kind of see a fighter fight back for once a little bit for as long as this lasts, because I think Bo Nickal, he's having time to evolve his skill in the stand-up, and that wrestling is going nowhere. It's going to be high level as always. Now, Paul Craig moved down to middleweight a few years ago, and I was kind of skeptical of how he was going to look at middleweight, and I don't think he's been. I think Paul Craig should have stayed at 205. It's just not. I think people are just too fast for Paul Craig at middleweight, and it's going to show again. Bo Nickal is going to out wrestle this man and ground and pound this guy, and I think Bo Nickal round one. Paul Craig is too chinny.
Yeah,
the chin is gone. If you think Paul Craig's going to throw up a Hail Mary triangle like he did with Jamal Hill, I don't know what to say to you guys. But Bo Nickal round one, easy.
that's really his only chance, right?
Just a
His Hail Mary.
Hail
like that.
Mary.
And they know that. Nichols camp knows that. This is, again, we're starting off the pay-per-view card with two showcase fights, like for the future. They're really trying to set the table. And I like that they're doing it, honestly. I like that they have these Apex events. I like they have these Fight Night events that they never used to have. That now, like, you can kind of showcase the younger guys and give them main event slots. So that at least, like, you're dropping the name on the public of, like, hey, who's this guy? Oh, let me watch this guy because he's in the main event. And then you recognize him when, you know, he's the second fight on a pay-per-view card, or maybe, you know, the third or fourth fight on a pay-per-view card. So I think they're just, they're investing in the future with the Ruffy fight and with the Nickal fight starting off the card. They're just planting the seeds in everyone's head.
You ready for the big fights, man?
Oh, man.
Co-main event of UFC 309, a rematch between Do Bronx, Charles Oliveira, versus Michael Chandler. So in their first fight, I felt like it was a very competitive first round, and then Michael Chandler did knock down Charles Oliveira. Oliveira trying his best to move his head. But he survived. He survived round one, and Charles Oliveira came back in round two and just put it on this guy, Michael Chandler, and just knocked his ass out
right away in round
Goodness
two.
Gracious.
No time.
And then this whole thing with Chandler and him waiting for that Conor McGregor fight, I think he wanted that big payday and just to bow out and get out of the sport. I think that's what he's been waiting for, is that money and then kind of leave. But he didn't get it, obviously. This man's kind of on his just putting out reels and IG stories and doing interviews of him just crying over Conor not showing up, wanting to fight. And with the interview that he just did with Ariel Horwani, it didn't sit well with me. Just what he's talking about during fight week, like where his head's at. He's still talking about this. Like, bro, let it go, please. I don't know, man. You know what? I was leaning Chandler in this fight.
Really?
I was. So watching the UFC countdown on Sunday, Chandler was speaking about him fighting smart. I don't know why I'm trusting this man to fight smart, but for him to use more wrestling in his his performances. But I kind of bought it, and I was like, maybe he's going to fight smart. Maybe he's going to do this and that, be more of a wrestler now and not get into these firefights. So I was kind of leaning Michael Chandler, and then I saw this the interview with Ariel, and just seeing him where his mind's at. He's still talking about this on fight week. I get we have the proof already with the first fight, but Michael Chandler's still explosive. If he can fight smart, he's hard for he's tough to beat in this division. But again, I think he's here for the show. MSG, he wants to put on the show for the fans, and I think I'm just gonna be comfortable with picking the favorite here with Charles Oliveira.
Michael Chandler's 2-3 in his UFC career.
Yes. And he's
2-3, and he's fought for the belt already.
And he's knocked down everybody. I feel like he's had people.
Oh, he's had moments in every fight,
but just
without a
can't.
doubt. But I don't know if it's because this is just a. All right. I don't know if it's a different level of chin, of skill, of heart, or what. Because Bellator had good 55ers. I mean, but like, and also let's be real. Other than Tony Ferguson, he's faced like a murderer's row since he got there against Dan Hooker, which is turning out to be a better win than it looked initially. Which got him the title fight. To which, your point, he was running his mouth on Ariel this week, talking about I saw quit in him, and I still think he has quit in him. When he did touch up Charles, and it looked like he was going to finish Charles, and then Charles scorched him.
That's not quit,
That's not quit, my dude. And for you to still think that it's in there, it's funny to me, because then you lost to Justin Gaethje. And then you got gifted Tony Ferguson, who has been a corpse for the last couple years, honestly. And then you get another shot. Again, 2 years ago, almost exactly to the day. 2 years ago at MSG, Dustin Poirier. And what do? You lose that one too. I don't know that Michael Chandler is built for the elite level. If Chandler and Hooker fight again, if this were Chandler and Hooker instead, who you picking in that one? We ain't seen Chandler in 2 years. We've heard plenty of him, to your point. We've heard a lot of him. I miss seeing those black babies on television, man. I do. But, bro, no, if it's Hooker and Chandler again, I'm picking Hooker this time. Just off of what I've seen. Just off of recent activity. Like, again, 2 years. 2 years of just talking and training. And now, like you said, he's now doing interviews and stuff where he's like, this fool's mapping out like the rest of his career. I'm going to beat Charles, then I'm going to fight Connor, and then I'm going to beat Islam. And like, bro, how about you worry about Charles first, who you acting like you've already beat?
Just stay put. Think about what's in front of you right now. Focus on this.
Why is he acting? That's my issue. He's been talking a lot. If you didn't know and you just put this in front of someone with no knowledge of the situation at all, you would swear that Michael Chandler served Charles Oliveira when they fought before. Like, by the way he talks, you would swear he smoked Oliveira. And like, that's weird to me. His confidence is very off-putting. I think Oliveira gets it done probably. I think it might take a little bit longer this time, but I think that he does the same thing again. I think he maybe a little bit later in the second or into the third. I think if Chandler does use his wrestling, I get that, but also like, yo, Oliveira is one of the nastiest we've ever seen in the UFC with his jiu-jitsu.
And then this is another thing, like because he's so explosive, Michael Chandler is, he gasses out faster.
Dog, his first how he starts off his fight, he just comes out as
so him
like every time.
Even though he's a wrestler, it still kind of hurts him because he's using so much energy in his wrestling takedowns. So the longer this fight goes, the power bar for Michael Chandler fades and gets lower. So yeah, man.
I don't think this one. And that's like you said. Do you know off top? I should look. Is this a 5-rounder? Is it a 5-rounder? I'm asking.
I have
it's
no idea.
Because I was gonna say if it's a 5-rounder, that works even against him even more. Because my man has never gone 5. He hasn't gone 5 rounds in the UFC.
I mean, it seems like
gone 5 rounds 3-4 times.
It seems like the UFC is making these co-main events 5 rounds now. Which
that's why. Let me check. But like, I don't think it matters either way. I don't think it even gets that far. I think Oliveira takes care of him. I think Oliveira takes care of him. Then you just got to sit still. You just got to sit still and wait.
It is congested up there at 155 at the top of this rankings.
And let's be real. Last time we saw Charles, that split decision against Armit, that was a hell of a fight. Great fight. That I remember we were sitting there and we were just like, I don't know. Like, we weren't going to be surprised either way, whichever way it went. It happened to go Armin's way, but I don't think Charles lost anything in that fight for his case to get a rematch for the belt. So yeah, if I'm Charles, I'm sitting still. I'm getting that. I'm just gonna wait for however 55 needs to shake out. Maybe they'll make an interim title there too. Who knows? But I'm gonna just sit on my hands and just wait for my title shot again to get my belt back.
So we're both on Oliveira this weekend.
Yes.
And I think he gets a finish.
Agreed.
Yeah. And to go to the main event, we have our GOAT. We have Jon Jones versus the UFC heavyweight GOAT, Stipe Miocic. If this fight was 4 years ago, I would be fucking smiling my face off right now. I would be jumping up and down. But now it's 2024. Stipe hasn't fought since he got his ass knocked out against Ngannou in the Apex. It's been some time since we've seen Stipe in the octagon. I know he's working his shifts at the firehouse, but I don't know where this man has been. But I've missed you, my guy. Goodness gracious. But yeah, because he has defended his heavyweight belt 2-3 times, he's considered the heavyweight GOAT in the UFC. How do you feel about that? Is he the heavyweight GOAT? I mean,
it's
okay. I get it, but
I could if we're looking at longevity and resume, then I think he is. I've never been big on Stipe. I don't know what it is.
Oh really?
I've never gotten it with him, and I don't know if it's the kind of the heavyweight age he came up in. I don't know if it's the fact that I dislike him because of what he did to DC, because I'm such a DC fan. And those were great fights. Like they were.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that DC even was even in there and beat him and was having these contested fights with him is crazy.
So frustrating
for all you 10-year-old MMA fans that only see DC as a commentator. Like, yo, he was one of the 2-time champ. Like, he was one of the 2 division.
Y'all gotta put some respect on DC's name.
But DC was around here. It's crazy that DC gave both of these dudes. I mean, he gave Stipe an L, and he pushed Jon Jones to limits. Like, put some respect on DC's name. DC is one of the greatest heavyweights ever, low key too, in UFC history. But I Stipe, DC, I have a personal liking for Cain Velasquez.
What could have been?
Cain
had it all.
I love Cain Velasquez. He was an absolute
A heavyweight with cardio. Probably hadn't seen like that.
Man.
Maybe Randy Couture, but I mean he's not a true heavyweight. But Cain had it, bro. Striking, wrestling, cardio. The guy had it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can go back to like is I don't know. It's heavyweight's a weird division. It really is because it's a lot of it's been a lot of giving the belt back and forth between 2 or 3 guys for such a long time.
I feel like the heavyweight has always had like a 2-year span where it's on fire, and then a lot of years of like, goodness gracious, this is a terrible division. And then it pops off with 2 or 3 guys, 4 guys, and then it's just a lot of nothing.
See, like, yeah, see, so like, yeah, like Cain's career losses are JDS, Verdum, and the Wild. That was that fight pissed me off so bad watching one of the worst heavyweights I've ever seen, Mauricio Verdum, win the heavyweight title in Mexico over Cain. That one hurt me. I usually don't like fights, don't really games, you know how it goes. Watching the Vikings, watching the Raiders, like last week I watched my soccer. I watched the U when the U lost. I was like, it might mess up my day with the Raiders. Usually it ruins my weekend, but with fighters, it never really, it's just like, oh, that sucks. Let me go about my day. And when Cain lost that one, dude, I was just hurt. I was hurt. But he lost to 3 JDS, Verdum, and his last fight was in Ghana. That's it. He also is what? Two-time champ. 2-time heavyweight champ. 3 losses. You can only fight in the era that you're in. So like it's not his fault he beat Brock Lesnar for the heavyweight.
Man. He humbled him.
But I mean, he's also got Chet Congo and Big Nog and Bigfoot Silva twice and JDS twice, and his last one, excuse me, was talk about humbling what he did to Travis Brown. So like, yeah, there's a long discussion to be had about heavyweight GOAT, and going off of like what's been happening recently too. I think Jones ain't in the conversation. He never will be for heavyweight GOAT. Oh, sorry, you're just too late to the party. And honestly, like, I don't think, as of right now, I don't think Aspinall has the competition. Like, numbers wise, he'll probably go down as one of the greatest, but you're also going to look into who he was fighting and be like, well, yeah, because like
a Jalton Almeida,
like, you know what I mean? Like, no offense, but like, okay, yeah, Curtis Blades, like, great,
yeah,
he knocked out Curtis Blades, so that's for after this conversation about the fight. But I mean, yeah, like, I definitely think there's obviously an interesting fight to make after this. Potentially, I think the funniest thing in the world. I think there's 2 hilarious things that could happen Saturday. One is, by the grace of God, not wishing for it or anything, but something happens that like Stipe falls down the stairs or something and breaks his arm, and Aspinall steps in to fight Jones. I think that would be great. I think Jones would do everything in his power to like not fight. But the other thing that I think would be hilarious, and spoiler alert, I don't think is going to happen, Stipe knocks out Jon Jones. The internet would melt. UFC Twitter would melt.
Listen, guys, it's not a crazy thing to think
that's the part.
Stipe could knock out Jon Jones.
It's not crazy.
This man's a boxer. He great boxing.
Golden Gloves, certified Golden Gloves champion.
The man's wrestling credentials is there.
And NCAA champ, or went to the NCAA championships in wrestling.
So Stipe has the tools to make this fight, and I think this is going to be Jon Jones' toughest fight at heavyweight. Of course, I don't know what Cyril Gane was. I don't know where Gane was at when he fought Jon Jones. I don't know where he was that night, but he definitely was not in the octagon. I don't know what that showing was.
Did you hear what Jon Jones said about that? Speaking of people who've been talking a lot this week, did you hear what he said about that? He said that the first feeling he had after winning the heavyweight title was disappointment because it was so fast. He goes, I worked so hard and trained so hard to get back to this point, like had fights canceled and stuff, got back here, and it was over in a minute and a half.
It was.
He was like, I was happy. Obviously, after like that, I got past that. I was happy. But my first thought was I was disappointed because it was so fast. Like, Cyril, if I was Cyril Gane, you know how like disrespected I would feel?
I don't know where he was at that night.
We'll find out soon enough where his head's at. We're gonna learn about that dude.
But with Jon Jones, like, there's not much to say about Jon Jones. Like, there's a lot to say, but I don't think we need to say it because the footage is out there, the film is out there for you guys to watch. Greatness. I think he is the GOAT. Me and Drew think he is the GOAT. And I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna just give you a period of him defending his belt against fighters, and I think this resume right here, put up against any champion, I think it is better. Give me when he took the belt from Shogun Rua back in 2011, hurt my heart.
Oh,
give me that to the Daniel Cormier fights. You give me that resume right there, Rua to DC. I think that resume of him defending belts is better than anything a champion has done.
I'll give you from. You know what I'll give you? I will give you from what he's now hoping to have overturned.
Matt Hamill.
The Matt Hamill loss. So I'll give you from December 6th, because that was December 5th. I'll give you to December 6th, 2009, all the way to December 29th, 2018, which was the Gustafsson, the second one.
Oh, he just.
Now let me run through this real quick. Brandon Vera. In case y'all don't know, Brandon Vera, I thought was going to be what Jon Jones was.
That boy was smooth.
Like, no joke. I thought he was going to be John, and I thought he was going to do it at heavyweight because he was a heavyweight too. Brandon Vera was before his time.
Now, before you keep waiting, we are doing this because we have to remind a lot of people what Jon Jones has done in the sport, because we have a lot of new fans that came during the pandemic, and then a little bit before the pandemic, we've had a lot of new fans enter the sport, and there's a lot of disrespect on social media about Jon Jones not being the GOAT. You guys forgot. Please read on.
So you had Brandon Vera, then you had Vladimir Machusenko, all right, Ryan Darth Bader.
That win ages amazing.
That one too was, I don't know if people remember Bader.
Y'all don't. The one shot, bro. One shot. Bader was knocking
Bader was also
out.
though, but like Bader and Jones were on the same trajectory. They thought Bader was going to be right there with Jones the whole time, and he had the look. He was a big old yoked up white boy, looked like a surfer. But
this man was knocking out everybody
out. And Bader and Jones guillotined the shit out of him. So then that gives Jones the title shot against my personal favorite of all time, Shogun. Quick work.
Right. Oh, I remember watching it at Drew's house.
Yes.
And both of us just
hurt. And that was one of those two that, like, yeah,
we
knew. You knew it was going to happen, but you just thought, like, with Paul Craig, maybe he'll throw up some kind of crazy anything. Nah, wasn't happening.
Oh, my God.
First defense, Rampage Jackson. Second defense, Lyoto the Dragon. Rashad Evans. Vitor.
A grade B Vitor too.
Chael Sonnen. Gustafsson, the first fight, which is, for my money, maybe the best fight I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, man, I love that fight. I love that fight.
Many people thought Alex won. I am one of them.
I've
watched it back plenty times. I still I could go either way, but I still nudge it to Alex. Then Glover Teixeira, DC. Why this is when it started to get a little bit downhill for me because he had cleaned out the division at that point because then OSP gets a title shot.
That's how you know.
And then he has the no contest with DC after he when he hit DC with the head kick.
Oh,
head kick. Yeah. But it was a no contest because of the drug test. And then he had Alex again. And that time, that's the one where he left no dispute, where he knocked out Alex. And then, I mean, he's had Anthony Smith, Thiago, everyone. Anthony freaking Smith. Thiago Santos, the Reyes fight, which was a controversial fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gone, which he made quick work of. That it, like, people, you have no idea how insane that resume is. Nuts. Like Hall of Famers left and right. Who didn't he fight? Like 205ers, who didn't he fight?
And I think Hall of Famers in different eras that were still at the height of their career.
Yes.
He was a 22, 23, 24-year-old destroying these guys. Like,
that's the thing that I think that the disconnect is that you have MMA fans who didn't pop up until after that Gustafsson fight, who popped up, like you say, pandemic time. They popped up. Or Anthony Smith fight, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes. So what they're seeing from John Jones is like, this guy isn't that like he's great. Anthony Smith almost beat him. Reyes arguably beat him. Like he's not that nice.
And I think a step above the OGs who have been watching this is people who came in during the Conor McGregor era. That's kind of like the newer OG class now. But then you have this class like me and Drew who've been there before that. Like 09, 10, I've been watching the sport since then, since I was a senior in high school. Like, so I've seen these runs. We were here for Anderson Silva's run,
and there's nothing like that's back when we didn't have events every week.
No, we had
and it was always on pay-per-view, and it was like every month or every other month, sometimes like every 3 months. And you were just like, yo.
So
John Jones is on the card tonight. Like it was an event when these dudes fought. Unlike, no offense, unlike nowadays where it's so many events, like I can't even keep up with people's names.
Yeah.
So it's like it was different back then. And to discredit, it's a lot like why I don't try to for example, you're a Celtics fan. I don't sit there and say, well, the Celtics got all these championships and banners, but most of them they won back when the dudes had a second job selling shoes and being a freaking plumber and doing this and that. And black people weren't allowed to play half the time, so it don't really count. Like, nah, them banners still count, whatever. I look at them different, but it's still the same. Nowadays with the MMA, it's like if it happened before Conor, it didn't count. It didn't happen. It wasn't a thing. And it's like just because y'all weren't outside for it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean it wasn't monumental. Why do you think all the respective voices in MMA all mention the same people? The Jones, the GSPs, the Anderson Silvas. Like they mention all these guys all the same because they were great. Not a lot of newer names when they're talking about Mount Rushmores and GOATs. Like there's not a whole lot of new names, and the ones you do hear are just because they've had weight classes created for them. Because for a long time too, you remember all we had was down to 55 in UFC.
Yep.
That was it. And 55 was banging, but we didn't have anything lower than that. It was all you had to go elsewhere for that. So yeah, please, like, and again, this is from somebody who I don't like John Jones. I think he's an excellent fighter. I don't care for him as a person outside the cage.
Yeah.
But you look stupid trying to diminish his career or trying to argue against the fact that he's the GOAT. And all the talk this week for him ducking Aspinall, I think he's just building that fight up, honestly. If you think he ain't gonna fight Aspinall,
bro, you guys are crazy thinking this man is ducking anybody.
he wants to embarrass Aspinall for what Aspinall's out here doing to him.
I think he enjoys people crying online, and he's laughing at you guys. Yeah.
Because he'll be quick to get on that mic on Saturday after a win and say something real crazy about the fans or about ducking, or he'll make something that it'll let everybody know, like, yeah, nah, he's very aware. He cares about this. He cares about what y'all are saying.
So Jon Jones coming off the Cyril Gahn performance, and someone who people thought Gahn was going to be like this new wave of heavyweight after Ngannou left, embarrasses him, finishes easy. Now he's going back and fighting the UFC heavyweight GOAT. And I think this fight's going to be close. I think this fight will be competitive. But I think the years of sitting out for Stipe is going to pay off, or is going to do bad for him. I think it's going to take 2 rounds for him to kind of get used to being back in here at this height and having someone like Jon Jones who has been working his ass off. I'm not saying Stipe isn't, but I think mentally Jon Jones is just different. Some athletes, some special athletes are just wired differently, like Jordan, Kobe, all the greats, right? In any sport, they're wired differently. And I think Jon Jones is just wired differently from skill set to mental. This guy's different. And I think Stipe is going to find that out. And I think Jones is going to be kind of a bit to handle, especially the later this fight goes into. The Stipe isn't the prettiest fighter, the deeper this fight goes into. So John's going to be the fresh fighter. Rounds 3, 4. Stipe is going to be trying to throw big, but I don't know. I think we see Stipe getting taken down too later in this fight.
Oh, that's the thing too. Like, Jon is such a
he
can do anything, anytime.
Yes.
Like, no matter what. Like, and like you said, it's like Kobe, Jordan. Like, whenever they want to get a shot off, they're gonna get a shot off.
The skill set is so high with Jon Jones and him training with what's that jiu-jitsu guy?
Gordon Ryan.
Gordon Ryan, like him adding that level to his skill set already is going to be dangerous. And I think he finishes Stipe in rounds 3 or 4. I think Stipe, if this fight were 4 years ago, I'm picking Stipe all night long.
Ooh.
Or I think this fight, it goes to decision if he fought Jones when Cyril Gahn was there.
Yeah.
But man, shifts at the firehouse with sitting out is not going to do well for you with someone like Jon Jones. So maybe submission, maybe.
Bro, I was just over here looking up because I was gonna say I got Jones by submission and plus 200. Plus 200, I got Jones by submission. Maybe in the first. But I'm thinking more like second, third round.
Stipe better have one hell of a warm up because he cannot just come in here and just okay, let's fight. Like this nigga Jones is different, bro.
Man.
Yeah, I'm going Jones by the submission, bro. I think
that's all I got it. I think Jones catches it. So here's what I learned watching back some tape, right? Stipe in the clinch, not awesome. Stipe doesn't it seems like he doesn't particularly care for being in close. Even when he's piecing you up and when he's boxing, he can box you back to the cage. And if you notice, this fool, just about every time, he's never going to chase. He's going to back up. I watched clips of him literally back someone. He backed, was it Overeem? Nah, it could have been. He scores over. He backs you up on the cage, right? He'll let you off the cage to go back to the center, plant his back foot in the center of the octagon and square up with you again. Seems like he doesn't like the being in close as much. I could see Jones being in close with him, catching him in a clinch, switching to that guillotine. He has such a good standing guillotine. Like, I think Jones, however he wants, but I think that's kind of how it's going to go. Again, Jones, I wouldn't be shocked if it was the first, but I think it's going to be more the second, third. I think he's going to come out kind of more methodical, feeling out. I think there's going to be a lot of respect. I think he's going to be, unlike you, how he thinks like, this is the heavyweight GOAT. Let me not just, again, if this were a couple years ago, yeah, Stipe might have a chance, but nah, I think he's gonna respect him.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, yeah, he finishes him, and then that's where the fun starts. That's where all the speculation and the will it be Tom and Tom gonna get in the cage with him and try to get in a fight? Will it be Alex? Will it be like whatever? Jones came out this week and said he said two people's names. He said Alex's name and he said Ngannou's name.
Oof.
Ngannou, we all know that ain't gonna happen.
John Jones versus Alex Pereira now will probably be the event that breaks the record for Khabib and Conor.
Man,
like I know that seems like it's a far reach, but
I don't think it is.
Where Pereira is at right now, and John Jones, who he is, like that would be the card right there.
Well, what you got to look at too is like what other than Conor coming back against, I hate to say it, but like honestly, like anyone other than Conor. I mean, unless you give Conor but that's the thing. Like, I don't even think Ilya is a big enough name yet with casuals to break that record. I think Jones has that crossover.
Yeah.
He has that, like, and Pereira is getting to that point now too. Like, because of how crazy his year has been. So that's what you kind of have to ask yourself, and that is who else in the UFC could carry, who has the name power to break that record? Because if it ain't Jones and Pereira, that record gonna be around for a long, long time.
And I think with the sport growing, I feel like we're not getting those superstars. You know, like we were here for the GSP, the Spider era, the John Jones era.
Eras. Yeah.
But there's so many fighters now, and I feel like people are coming into the sport respectful, and then when they want to speak out, like they get people online like, oh, you just want to be like Conor or something.
Yeah, that's
and
a
now
lot of
kind of
that.
like okay,
that.
maybe I won't take that route. No one's afraid to step out of their boundary like Conor did and just talk their shit, but no one's also backing it up with their performances.
That's the difference. Is as much as I disliked Conor, I loved his mouth.
Dude, hilarious.
But like
no one has had
that fool backed it up, and that pissed me off every time because I was like, yo, you couldn't tell me that Jose Aldo wasn't gonna beat the dog shit out of Conor McGregor.
I couldn't believe what was happening. Like yeah.
That's one of those that I remember exactly where I was at.
Yeah, me too.
I remember my mouth dry. I was just like, what? That's it?
Bro.
That's it. It's just all like that.
Oh man.
He backed it up. Like we saw on Twitter earlier this week when we were both engaged on it, the Eddie Alvarez, like the press conference.
Man.
Just shows up late, is talking crazy.
With a Gucci mink. Conor era was special, man.
But then came out and just totally whatever. Like Eddie made Eddie Alvarez look like a scrub. Ugh. And Eddie Alvarez was nice. With the boxing, he was nice, and Conor pieced his ass up. Oof. Like, so yeah, I don't know that we'll have a star like that again. I thought Sugar was gonna be the guy, but maybe he still will be. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a long time for that record goes down if it ain't Alex and
a lot of people are gonna hate me for saying this, but I thought Izzy had it, but the performances weren't there. I think if Izzy was finishing fighters, I think this guy had no ceilings. Like
if Alex never came along,
that too.
Izzy might have cleaned it out already.
Yeah.
Izzy might be doing what Alex is doing now, because he cleans out 85.
Mm-hmm.
Other than my guy, the current champ. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that that the talent pool is so deep now, and the level is so much higher too. Brock Lesnar in the heavyweight division today, Tybura would beat Brock Lesnar. Let's be real. Like, Brock Lesnar's best chance would be against a Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis might just knock this man out.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, and that, yeah. See, so like I understand that, but like, I also think that leads to just like how the Bulls won six out of 8. And the Lakers had their run and the Spurs had their run. And it was like, yeah, now things are deeper. Now there's more parity. And those long, dominant championship runs for fighters, I mean, they might be gone now. Yeah. It might be a wrap now. Like Volk might be one of the last ones.
And I think with people, it's becoming such a money sport now where people just want to get in and get out, make money. No one cares about legacy. Like legacy
they just want the crossover fights I'll move up a division, you move down a division, super fight, lots of money. Never mind that we hold up both of our divisions championships and all that because we want to fight each other for the biggest paycheck we can make.
And with me being, starting watching this sport from where I did, I hate that fighters fight twice in their division then want to fight for 2 belts. It pisses me off. People had to work for that second belt, but now people are just gifting it, or Dana's just letting it happen now, which is just insane to me, man.
Because like you said, the
money.
You see that money, and he's like, oh, how many pay-per-views could I sell on this? I'll just make an interim belt in the meantime, which means nothing.
Yeah.
And again, I'll just hold up the division, no big deal. And that's I really have that era and Connor started it. It really has been, in my opinion, it's really hurt MMA.
10 years, bro.
It's really hurt MMA, the double champ thing with these guys being so emboldened to be like, yo, I'm just gonna jump around divisions and see who will fight me when and where and see what belt I can get to the easiest. And then if I win it, I'll just go back to whatever division I started in and fight for that belt too. And like, yeah, that's again, if I were a fighter that's been training for 10 years to get a title shot, and it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna move to 55 instead and run away from 45. I'm like, well, what am I? Can I get an interim or anything? Like something, bro. I've been working my whole career for this shit. So yeah, that is I agree 1,000% with you. There's somebody mentioned that there should be a rule you have to defend your title 3 times within your division before you can go for another division's belt.
I like 4 or 5 maybe.
Because you figure if it's I would like 4 because if
4 is solid.
You're just fighting quarterly. Fight 4 times in a year if you're that guy. Fight 4 times in a year, maybe a year and a half or so. That's a good enough amount of time to let the division sort itself out and then go do what you want to do. Go get your money, player. But until then, like, do your damn job.
Okay, to give the final picks for UFC 309. Again, we have a good amount of underdogs on this card. So start from the bottom. We have Moura, dog number 1. I'm taking Hafez, dog number 2. I'm taking Mickey Gall. I'm taking Marcin Tybura, which is looking like a favorite, I'm guessing.
Yes, minus 140 favorite.
David Onama, I don't know if he's fighting yet. And then I'm taking Jim Miller, dog number 3.
Yep.
I'm taking Chris Weidman, dog number 4. I'm taking Marcus McGhee. To get into the pay-per-view, we're taking Mauricio Ruffy, Karine Silva, Bo Nickal. Co-main event, we're going with Charles Oliveria. And then to end off the night, we have the GOAT and still Jon Jones retaining his belt. So it gets favorite heavy once we get into that main card, but this prelim card is just good luck to you guys betting this. It gets sketchy out here.
Seems like prelims is where, if you study up, seems like prelims is where your money is at, because the main card, again,
I
Charles Oliveira and Silva are 245 and 255. Those are the 2 smallest favorites. So like, you got to get into the props and stuff, and your rounds and your finishes.
Go prop
finish techniques on the main card.
And you already heard Drew say Jon Jones submission was plus 200. So they're even cracking down on the props with these wide money lines. So try to find the best bet here. But
because you put Bo Nickal at minus 1,000 or minus, he's at minus 1,500 at a certain
so
book.
Crazy.
Like, Jon Jones minus 700, minus 852 at some books. Like, there's no money in that. None.
Yeah.
But guaranteed we'll probably see a Drake bet slip or something. $500,000 on Jon Jones to win like $87 or something.
But that is our breakdown for UFC 309 going down this Saturday. We're almost at 15,000. Well, not 15,000. Is it 15,000? The subscribers? Yeah, I'm saying that right. Yeah, 15,000 subscribers. So sorry. I'm like 8 away from 15,000. So if you guys can just help me out there, we're almost at the big milestone.
That 15K party going.
For real. And yeah, thank you guys for just tuning in for this episode and just some us reminding the media of Jon Jones. Like, sorry we got deep into the conversation, but we have to remind these people what is coming like Saturday. Like, Jon Jones is that guy.
We the ones that had to do it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, thank you again. Hopefully we've done enough to earn your sub with this breakdown. If you're listening on Spotify, hit that follow button, and we'll see you guys on the next breakdown.
Sir.